Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one I've got another quite interesting beer for you from the Netherlands. So we're going to have a taste of a beer that is a collaboration between Oersop from Nijmegen and Rooie Dop, who are from Utrecht. This guy is called the White Whale and it's a white IPA. So essentially with this beer you have a sort of wheat malt base to it, but then you've got the sort of American style IPA hop presence on top of that from what I've heard. So it should be a very interesting beer. This is my first encounter with either Oersop or Rooie Dop, so hopefully it'll be a very interesting beer. I've got it on good authority that these are two very good breweries, so I'm quite excited to try it. But as is usual with my beer reviews, then I'll take you through a very brief history of both the breweries involved in this one. It will just be a minute or two, but if you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. The brewery website's in the description for you below, along with the links to my other reviews that hopefully I can add from both of these breweries in the fairly near future. So anyway, firstly to Oersop. Now, Oersop translates from Dutch into English as primordial soup, and the brewery are based in Nijmegen in the Netherlands, as I told you before. Now, the brewery was founded by Kik van Hout and Sander Kobs, and Kik actually owned a specialty beer cafe while Sander was previously a keen home brewer, and obviously, like many people in the business, he's turned professional. But Sander says the name primordial soup, or Oersop, was chosen because he feels that making beer is like really making a big soup, and you can experiment with many different ingredients and get some really interesting flavours out of it. But the thing that's really cool about Oersop is that the land around Nijmegen is very fertile, and of course from that these guys like to use a lot of the local ingredients. So if you drink an Oersop beer, you are getting something that is really native, if you like, to the Netherlands. So a very unique brewery in that sense. But most of their brews that they do are apparently one-off beers, but they do a few regulars as well. I believe on the website it said that their regular beers are only brewed in 100-litre batches. So it's quite an interesting brewery. So you're getting a very unique beer every time you drink something from these guys, and it's also something that's very local to Nijmegen. And incidentally, I've been to Nijmegen and there's some really interesting World War II history and stuff there, so it's a beautiful town as well, so it's definitely worth checking out if you get the chance. But anyway, to Rooie Dop. So Rooie Dop, as I said to you, are from Utrecht in the Netherlands, and these guys were founded in 2010 by three friends, but now it's only one guy at the helm, and this is Mark Strucker, who is known as the Dude. Now, the original brewery was in the Wharf Cellar in the city, and it now acts as their experimental brewery, where they brew all of their very kind of small batch beers, their sort of one-offs and everything like that. It's almost a beer lab, if you like, but they hold tasting events every Friday in their beer dungeon bar, and this is called Fab Friday. So if you do find yourself in Utrecht in the Netherlands, look up Rooie Dop and then see if you can go along for a beer tasting. But recently they've teamed up with Rooie Brewery and they're building a new facility in Meersen. I believe this was just this year that they've done that, so the majority of the Rooie Dop production is moving out of the main city of Utrecht, but as I say, they still have their beer lab down there and they have a little brew pub, so go and check them out. But as I say, both of these breweries are apparently very good, and this is my first encounter with them, so I'm quite excited to try this beer for you. But to tell you about this one itself, it's a 6.5% white IPA. I'll just bring up the camera and let you have a little look at it. I couldn't find out what hops actually went into this beer, but I can tell you that this beer was brewed at Oersop in Nijmegen rather than at Rooie Dop in Meersen or in Utrecht, wherever they would brew this one out of the two. But there you can see it's quite a nice, quite simple cover on this one. I'm going to keep it because I actually do quite like whales. It's an animal that I really like to see the efforts for the conservation in. But you can see here just on the bottom, you can see the Oersop, I think it's an oak tree. You can see that just on the bottom of the label there. Just fixed the light there for you, and you can also see the Rooie Dop kind of circle symbol there. But as I say, this is the first encounter I've had with any of their beers, and I think their artwork for both of them is quite different. But this is the standard Oersop bottle cap that you get on these, and interestingly this is only a 25 centilitre bottle, so it's only 250 millilitres. But without further ado, let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting here. So as you can see, a nice smoky opening. I believe the alcohol content on this one is 6.5%. So it's a 6.5% white IPA. As I said to you, quite a kind of wheaty malt base in this one, but then you've got the sort of typical American style IPA hop presence on top of that from what I've read. But my very first time trying this style, so I'm sure we'll soon find out. So let me just bring up the light and let you see the proper colour of this beer. As you can see, it's poured quite a kind of murky but yet bright orangey golden straw colour, if you like. It's got a sort of half finger of a frothy white head. It's definitely white, it's not cream or anything like that, definitely a very white frothy head. There is a little bit of carbonation just going up towards the bottom of the head, and there is some sediment just sticking around the bottom of the glass, and there is a bit of carbonation, of course, sticking to the side of the glass as well, but it looks very, very nice. So I'll just put the light down because I can see that is very, very bright just on the camera there. But the thing you'll notice when you smell this beer is you get a really interesting mix of wheat, very sweet wheat and yeast, and you also can pick up some of the American fruits off of this as well, but that's just without paying too much attention to it. But on closer inspection, you get the typical sort of aromas that you expect from an American IPA. So you've got a big bit of kind of grapefruit in there and some orangey citrus. I want to say it's more orange actually, but you can definitely pick up the kind of tropical elements to it as well. I want to say there's grapefruit in there. You can pick up that sort of sourish grapefruit aroma, but it smells quite dusty at the same time. And I think you can pick up a little bit of the sharpness that you would expect of pine resin as well. So you've got a really interesting hop characteristic to it. It's quite aromatic and floral as well. It's got that kind of sharpness to the aroma. It smells absolutely beautiful. And if you just sit it down, if you just let it settle like that, that's when you can smell the sort of sweet, bready and yeasty character coming out of it. It is quite a sweet kind of bready and yeasty element that you're getting out of it. So as I always say, just take a little bit of time and smell the aroma of the beer. And this one is particularly interesting because it's two kind of unusual combinations, if you like. But it should be a very, very nice beer. So this is the White Whale, so we'll toast to whale conservation across the world. And this is a collaboration between Oersop from Nijmegen and Rooie Dop from Utrecht. So to the White Whales, cheers. Now that's really interesting. Very hoppy on the first taste, but then it kind of smooths out, and that's just when you're getting the kind of yeasty and sweet malt base to it. So it's quite interesting. I need to let my mouth adjust to it a little bit more. Yeah, it's a really interesting combination of flavours. It's a more hop forward beer than a malt forward one, I would say, but that's what you expect of an IPA. The thing that's lasting into the aftertaste just on the first few sips, it really is the kind of grapefruit and piney resins. It's more pine resin actually. Pine resins are staying into the aftertaste and just around the edges of the tongue there. But there is just a little bit of that kind of sour flavour that you get from the grapefruit. I always describe grapefruit as being a kind of sourish fruit flavour. Yeah, so you've got a really nice, interesting malt base in there. You've got a nice yeast sweetness, and that just kind of blankets the front of the tongue there. But when you first take it in, you won't get it until it builds into the aftertaste for the first time. But you've got a nice yeasty blanket across the tongue there. And a little bit of wheat as well, actually. As I said, you get a kind of wheaty, almost a wheat beer malt base on this guy. And then you've got the American hops on top of that. So it is quite interesting. The hops feel a little bit dusty as well. I want to say there's maybe just a little bit of spice in there, but that might just be the wheat flavours. But there's maybe a bit of pale malt in this as well, the sort of lagerish pale malts. But it really does have a very mild malt base on it, but you can pick up just a little bit of wheat spice, but there's a good yeasty sweetness to it just in the middle of the tongue, but it is a very kind of mild malt base. The focus in this beer is more on the hops, so the wheaty side of the beer is more subtle, I'd say. Yeah, one thing that happens during the course of taking this beer is that you get some nice juicy fruit out of it. I want to say it's a kind of orangey flavour that's coming out of it, but it's quite a mild orangey flavour. The main components of the hops, like I said, are the pine resins, and I think there is a bit of kind of aromatic-y element to it as well around the edge of the palate there. You've got a nice sort of grassy element to it, but there's a definite piney resin element on the tongue there. You'll get that kind of nice sharpness that you get from pine resins, probably some citra hop or or Yakima Valley hops I should say. There's probably some of that in this beer because you can really get that big piney blast, and I love that with American beers. But it's got a really nice kind of grapefruit flavour as well, and you feel that juicy oily bubble coming towards the front of the tongue as you actually get further into this beer, and it's really beautiful. So as I say, a nice mild malt base and then the American hops on top of that. Around the edges of the tongue you're getting this nice pine resin. Around the front of the tongue it's a bit more aromatic-y and grapefruity if you like, but you're getting a little bit of orange juiciness throughout the flavour of this beer, and the aftertaste is a kind of mild wheaty character, but then you've got a nice dry piney element to it. It's a very, very nice blend of flavours, this beer. So in terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I would say it is quite mid-bodied. It's got a kind of moderate carbonation to it as well. The carbonation helps bring out the pine resins, I would say. You can feel the carbonation coming into the tongue, and that's what really makes the pine resin flavours appear. But it's, yeah, mid-bodied, kind of moderate carbonation, I would say. You'll get ones that are a lot more carbonated than this, and it's actually very mild in the malt base. It's slightly heavier than some IPAs if you like, but it's in a very different way. The malt base feels a bit heavier because of the breadiness to it, rather than having the caramel element where it's a bit sweeter. So the malt base, the feel you get in the mouth on the malt base on this one is very interesting, but you've got a nice, really hoppy and dry finish in this one. This is drier than quite a few regular IPAs I've had, so it's quite interesting in that regard. But overall, it's a very, very nice beer. It's got that nice dry element at the end that you expect that makes you thirsty and want to drink more. So you can see where Oersop and Rooie Dop are going with this beer. So very, very nice beer. Overall, I'd say really, really nice, worth trying if you do get it. I'm not sure if you'll ever see this again, so I'm going to keep the bottle for this beer, but definitely worth trying. The comment I would make on it is that it maybe is more like a kind of hoppy wit beer, but I can see at the same time why they call it a white IPA. I would wonder how a bit of caramel malt would go in it. That would perhaps be quite interesting, but then maybe you're taking it out of the kind of white IPA style. I'm not sure about that kind of border style. The white IPA is a very new style to me, but overall it's a really good beer, and I would definitely recommend you try it. And hopefully I can try some more beers from Oersop and Rooie Dop as well, so fingers crossed for that in the future. I'm sure I'll be back in the Netherlands at some point. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. It's been cool to review this quite interesting collaboration for you and to encounter a new style. So please let me know in the comments section your own thoughts on this beer below if you do happen to have tried it. Always interesting to hear them. So please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I hope those of you in the Netherlands are enjoying my Dutch reviews, and those of you watching elsewhere as well. So I'll catch you soon with the next one. Cheers!